Alright, the complete compliance guide for freight brokers, license costs, renewals, training tips, ongoing compliance, land surety bond assurance associates incorporated. Introduction, licensing, business registration, freighter, broker license application, apply for operating authority, receive your MCFF number and grant letter, claim your freight broker surety bond and trust fund, get freight broker insurance, designate your process and agents, wait for license application renewal and approval. The cost of becoming a broker, business registration, operating authority, freight broker, bond costs, insurance policy, business equipment and location, broker training, for training and tips, freight broker training opportunities, freight broker communities, checking for careers, renewal, updating your FMCSA registration authority, renewal of freight brokers bond, ongoing compliance, general requirements for brokers, household good brokers, requirements, consequence for non-compliance. What is a freight broker bond claim? How do freight brokers claim occurs? And how can a broker stay compliant and avoid claims? Conclusion. Introduction. Our compliance is at the center of any freight broker brokerage business. Knowing how to comply with the rules and regulations that apply with being the freight broker means avoiding costly procedures such as surety bond claims, late renewal penalties, and consumer complaints that can drain time and money. All this is essential and especially important with the freight broker industry rebounds, grows, and new. Consistently since 2014, number of licensed U.S. freight brokers has risen at a rate about 1,000 newly registered brokers each year. At the beginning of 2015, there were a total of 15,023 licensed brokers. A year later, that figure had jumped to 6,045 licensed brokers. January 2017, there were 17,000 licensed brokers in the country. The industry's steady growth and due to the increase of freight volume both inside the country as well as imports and exports, all this calls for more hand on the job to help move the ever-increasing volume of freight. If you wish to start a career with a broker, you will need to fulfill a number of legal requirements, most importantly, getting licensed and bonded. Beyond that, most being brokers should complete the training and seeking first-hand experience in the industry. You should seek to understand how you can best set up your business, what responsibilities you have to always remain compliant. What is in this ebook? The ebook will take you to new aspiring brokers through all steps towards the getting licensed and bonded, provide with a comprehensive breakdown of the initial costs and starting out operating in freight broker, well as going over the type of the trainings available to brokers, as well as other tips and tricks that can help you find the top shippers carriers to work with. Last but not least, the ebook will go into some of the legal requirements that you will need to comply with a broker in order to stay right side of the law. Licensing. License process for the freight broker goes in two places. Brokers need registration of their business in the state they are based in. In addition, they must apply with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration to get their license. Here's what you need to cover on each of these requirements. Business registration. Secretary of State, local Department of Revenue, local Transportation Regulation Agency. Business registration procedures differ from state to state. Secretary of the State office is typically the place where you start getting this registered. You may also be required to by your local Department of Revenue of your business tax registration. If you plan on having trucks or other carrier services, some brokers do. You also plan to need to visit your local transportation regulatory agency. When you get registered, you will need to determine the structure of your business. The broker may be a corporate sole proprietor, partnership, limited liability company. There's no right or wrong way here. Choices here. It strictly depends on your particular situation, whether you're doing business alone or with somebody else. If you're not sure, you need to consult an attorney to figure out what would be the best for you. Freight broker's license application. Previous brokers have had applied for the license with the FMCSA, filling out the number of forms, submitting them either online or in mail. As of December 12, 2015, the old license procedure changed. Since then, new applicants for the freight broker license are required for the Unified Registration System, the URS. Unified Registration System combines all the forms required by the brokers into a streamlined licensing process. Tip: if you have trouble figuring out the registration process for the FMCSA, offers free training with the Unified Registration System. The training will take you through the license process, explain what you need to do to each step. Start your freight broker license application with the Unified Registration System here. Apply for operating authority. First thing you will be asked to do during the license process is apply for the operating authority, also known as the MC number. Operating authority exactly sounds like your authority to operate a freight broker. There are two types of operating authority brokers, depending on the type of goods you will be arranging, transferring, importing from there. These are authority of brokers of property and authority of brokers of household goods. You can also apply for both types of the authority if you plan on broking both categories. Keep in mind that you will have to pay in each authority separately. For each type of authority, you will need to pay a $300 fee. When completing your operating authority application, you will be asked to provide personal information, security number, employer identification number, if applicable. If you plan on acting as a motor carrier, you will need to obtain a U.S. DOT number during the step of your application. If you decide later to date that you want to change your operating authority, that you want to obtain additional authority, you can do so at the FMCSA, and you will still need to pay a regular fee with additional change through. Alright, 2.2. Receive your MCSFF number and grant letter. Once applied, you will receive the MCFF number. The number is important because it will use for the insurer for the file necessary documents for the FM Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration on your behalf. Keep in mind that at this point you still won't have received your operating authority. You must complete with the next step to finish your application. After receiving your MCFF number online, you will all get an additional grant letter by mail certifying that you received the number at the time your grant letter is sent to you. Your application operating authority will be published in the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Register. This initiates the 10-day protest period during which your application operating authority can be challenged by anyone who thinks your company should not be granted the authority. 2.3. Obtaining your freight broker, surety bond, and trust fund. You do not need to protest period and wait for the protest period to finish getting in touch with your surety bond company, obtaining your freight broker bond. The $75,000 freight broker bond, also called the BMC 84 bond, is a type of financial protection for your customers. Guarantees that if it does not comply with federal laws and regulations, cause damage and losses, and a claim can be filed against the bond to compensate affected parties. Freight brokers bonds are obtained with a surety bond agency, Land Surety Bonds. These agencies work with the bond companies to issue the backup of the bond financially. When you apply for the bond, you offered a bond quote, the cost of which you can obtain your bond. Your personal credit score, along with the financial indicators, strongly influence the rate of your bond. Typically, application for the good credit score offered with a rate of change ranges of 1 to 5% of the total freight broker bond amount. To find out more about freight broker bonds, see the detailed bond guide for freight brokers. Once you obtain your bond, your surety bond company will file relevant information for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. You have a maximum of 90 days to obtain your bond once your application has been published in the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. Applicants for a broker license also given the option to make a trust fund agreement instead of obtaining a surety bond. This option, though, requires you to place a full $75,000 in the trust fund. It's usually difficult for the new brokers and also freezes large amounts of money so that you could otherwise use to grow your business. So you should have freight broker bond and trust fund. Apply for free freight broker bond quote and today lock your rate in for 90 days. Alright, when you're looking for a bond agency to apply for the bond, always make sure the agency works with the A-rated or T-listed bond companies. This means these companies are reliable, financially stable, guaranteed back your bond in this case claim. Alright, 2.4. Get freight broker license. By law, freight brokers are not required to obtain insurance if they operate as a broker. If you plan to obtain the carrier forward authority, you will need to get some type of insurance, such as cargo insurance, liability insurance. But even though it is not legally required, recommended that the brokers get contingent cargo insurance, even general liability property insurance. While brokers don't personally handle freight, if something is lost and damaged, they may end up being held responsible. This could happen if the carrier does not cover the damages caused the shipment. For this reason, the shippers and the carriers will often inquire, even request, that a broker have contingent cargo insurance. If you have more than 2 employees, you will also have to obtain workers' compensation insurance. Type of insurance is required in all states for all employers, regardless of the type of the business. Tip: always checking the carriers for the work compensation insurance. That there have been cases of brokers successfully being pursued for workers' compensation benefits carriers' employers, even though they didn't employ these people. If your carrier is exempt by state regulations from having worker compensation insurance, request that they provide you a written statement of them being exempt. Designate your process agents. Once you get your FFMC number, you can also designate your process agent. Process agent must be designated for every state you plan to have an office in, whether you establish contracts, where you establish contracts. You can be on your own process agent for state in which you are based, where you have a physical office. 2.6. Wait for your license application review and approval. If there are no protests against the application during the protest period, you have complied with all the above licensing requirements. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration will issue the operating authority freight broker license. Congratulations on becoming a licensed freight broker. Now what? In the next session, you'll find a breakdown of some of the costs, and you can expect when getting licensed. The cost of becoming a broker. For initial registration, freight brokers, and the beginning of your broker operation, you will have to cover a number of costs. These include business registration, operating authority, freight broker, bond, insurance policy, business equipment, location, broker training. None of these are fixed, easy to predict, but they are plausible breakdown of how much all of this may cost you. Business registration. Cost of starting a business depends on requirements of the state you live in. The Small Business Administration can provide the details about what you need when you start a business. Any state, on average, you can expect to spend between $150 to $300 in business registration. Operating authority. Getting the operating authority will cost you $300 for every type of authority you want to obtain. Alright, your bond premium. The cost of the freight broker bond is determined by the case-to-case basis. The annual premiums are based on the credit score, appearance of financial strength, as well as the bond agency you chose to work for. Experienced freight brokers, excellent credit, currently can expect to see prices ranging from $900 to $3,000 annually. Those with damaged credit and lacking relevant industry experience will likely see higher prices. It shows excellent credit about 3 to 5%, 22,500, 3,500, 5 to 10% bad credit, 3,750 to $75,000 plus. All right, note. This table offers ballpark estimates. Bond pricing is constantly changing. Rate vary substantially. The figures are intended to provide a roof interest current market for the planning purposes. It's important to understand that the price offered by the bond companies are constantly changing due to the market conditions. Competition loss incurred. You must best chance of obtaining the lowest market rate is working with an agency representing multiple surety bond companies as they compare the rates for you. Land Surety has a strong relationship with all the top bottom bond companies currently within the freight broker bond. As such, as we're able to shop around for all our clients to ensure lowest available prices obtained at all times for all credit ratings. Tip: even if you have bad credit, you can still get a bond, though the rate will probably be higher due to the increased rate. You can still move forward while brokering business. Fill out your online application. Exact quote for your freight broker bond is free. The potential cost of claims bond premiums are not only cost to consider. The true cost of freight with a broker bond is not just the annual premium, but the total liability that could result with the claims placed against the bond. If the claims paid out against your bond, you will be liable to pay the bond company back, which in most severe cases could be up to $75,000 bond amount legal and plus legal fees. If critical, freight brokers to partner with the right type of the bond agencies. Once taken the claims are agents against your bond seriously, is provided to serve that you are adequate advocate in the event of the claim. While most bond agencies are involved only through the point of sale, Land Surety provides its self-security, supporting on clients through the entire bond process to include any potential claims. In fact, Land Surety is one of the only agencies in the nation with our own claim managers. Or 3.4 insurance policies. Since insurance policies are not mandatory for freight brokers when operating with this broker, getting insurance is optional but strongly recommended. If you decide to get insurance, your contingent cargo insurance will likely cost somewhere between $1,100 and $1,500 annually. If you also have to get the workman's compensation insurance, decide to get liability insurance, your annual insurance cost must be maybe as high as $3,000. The costs among the hardest to predict since they depend on you and how you want to set up the brokerage. You can save the initial by working from home, using the home computer, telephone from offset. The good idea is to invest in professional broker software. A transportation management system may cost you between $600 and $1,200 a year. Will provide good return on investment in the long run. 3.6 broker training. Broker training is not mandatory, but can benefit you gradually and provide you with an edge compared to the brokers who have completed any training. Training courses can range between a little as $100 to as much as $2,500, depending on the complexity of the length of the course. Courses high and even often offer possible to match your freight brokerage. When you put in hourly work to get started initially, there is also some free opportunities available. The next section offers a list of various training possibilities that are available to offers the range of options. You connect with the other brokers, suggest some handy tools. You can check with the carriers you consider working with. All right, 4, training and tips. Freight broker training opportunities. A handful of reputable, well-known freight broker training schools you can easily find online on different courses of freight broker, both in class and online, as well as training packages and materials to help you practice. Also, a number of free training opportunities that you can provide with some basic starting of the freight broking career. If you're interested in free opportunities that are considered some of the following resources: introduction, transportation system, logistics system, import-export training videos, and export tutorials, Global Edge, Michigan State. So you can take a free course at MIT for introduction to transportation system, logistics systems. For more training options include paid ones. Look at the list of the top 5 freight broker training schools online. 4.2 freight broker communities. If you want to jump straight into the action, get known with fellow brokers, exchange options, and experience check with social media offerings, and freight brokers have few good opportunities to start networking, building connections. You have Freight Brokers Group, which is 4,400 members, broke on Facebook. Freight Broker Shipper Carrier Truck Group, 2,900 members on Facebook. Freight Broker Tips, LinkedIn, 700 members. Transportation and Logistics Supply Chain, Google, 4,700 members plus. Truck Reporters Freight Broker Forum, online forum, 1,000 participants, hundreds of different topics being discussed. Even if you do not participate regularly in these communities, if the great idea to keep an eye on that, believe it or not, the social network will be one of the first places to notify of the important change of the concern of legal compliance as a throat breaker. There is a good source of good practice advice of online tackle various challenges will arise in the course of your practice. Checking your carriers. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration range 2 of the broker can also find out more about the carriers that work with. These tools are safety fitness, electronic records, or safer system, safe measuring system, SMS, or a QC mobile app. Among these could provide with the information regarding carrier size, cargo safety rating, performance, crash data inspection, and more. And very important, the freight broker carefully pick the partnership, find with the good carriers to work as Mel mentioned in the license section, making sure your carriers have good record and necessary assurance of the essential success for your own operations. Renewal. There are 2 types of renewal you need to pay attention to in order to remain compliant with the first type. Entails updating your information Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, while the second time requires renewing your freight broker bond. Updating your Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration registration authority requires FMCSA requires all entities registered with up-to-date record every time there is some change to the operation for brokers, include business registration, operating authority, insurance policy, business equipment, and location. If you're operating carrier as well as the freight broker, you also need to update the U.S. dot records. However, all entities are required to perform a routine update every 2 years, even if there's no change in their information. This includes brokers, carriers who have since stopped operating but have not notified the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. There are penalties for not complying with the requirement. Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration will usually send out a notice at least 30 days in advance of the biannual update deadline, so you do not worry about remembering the date. 2. Renewing your freight broker bond. You also need to renew your freight broker bond annually. These bonds are issued once a year at validated, but you obtain you for validated from the date you obtain them for your surety. If you fail to renew your freight broker bond, you will violate the compliance requirements of Federal Motor Carrier Administration. You will meet, which may lead to your license being revoked or suspended. You should renew your bond no later than 30 days before it expires. According to Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration requirements, bond companies need not to notify the administrator that the bond is about to expire and be canceled 30 days in advance. If you renew your bond before the expiry date, but every 30 days after the 30-day deadline, you may end up with dealing with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration procedures that have been set in motion. As a result of surety notifying them the approaching deadline, your surety will typically notify Fly you as early as 90 days before deadline, then at regular 30-day intervals or less or point onward. Tip: by improving personal credit score, you can significantly reduce your bond rate for the one bond renewal with the next. Consequently, surety bond provider about the different ways you can get a lower rate. If you can get a low rate, this means surety will consider low risk applicant. Being a low risk applicant is good both for you and the surety. Want to renew your freight bond? Get a free quote here, and then it goes on to the checklist compliance. To comply with it, you also need to be mindful of the various federal rules that are placed on freight brokers. Most likely hear about you decide to complete some kind of freight broker training, detailed understanding regulation to comply with it. You can also review Title 49, Subtitle B, Chapter 3, Subchapter B, Part 371, Brokers of Property, Code Freight Regulations below. We have rounded up the most important regulations pertaining to freight brokers. General requirements for brokers. 3 general requirements for all types of freight brokers in the CFR. These are keeping records, understanding, avoiding misrepresentation, proper accounting. According to Title 49 CFR 3713, brokers must comply with the records, transactions, shipments for the range, some form of transportation period of the 3 years. Brokers have a freedom to organize these records in a master list as long as the records themselves are exhaustive. They must include the names of the parties involved, the U.S. stat number of the carrier charges collected by you, the freight bill number of bill of landing, description of any of the non-broker stuff that you performed with the compensating you received. According to 37117, the brokers may not do business, advertise any other name that in one stated registration operating authority. Broker must also be clearly not representing themselves as motor carriers. Finally, according to 37113, brokers who have the other business must make sure that you keep the financial records of these businesses separate. The brokerage business and other business share expenses must be clear with these expenses belong to the broker. Household good brokers requirements. Subpart B 371 is concerned with the serious rules concerning household good broker practice, particularly specific requirements of motor carrier. These brokers must work with the type of the information. These brokers must include an advertisement. Also, information the broker must provide individual shippers with conducting business with them. These rules shall be studied carefully. We suggest you have a look at the respective selection in CFR. Consequences of non-compliance. The various possible consequences for not complying with the rules and regulation freight broker. One such consequence freight broker claim. Here's why freight broker bond claims occur and what can do to avoid them. What is a freight broker bond claim? The various possible consequences of not complying with the rules and regulation freight brokers. One such consequence of freight broker bond claim. This is the freight broker bond claim occurs. What can you do to avoid them? How to do a freight broker claims occur. A shipper may file against the broker's bond and if the shipment has been lost, damaged, or delayed. The carrier may file a claim against the bond if the contract they have within the broker has been breached. For example, the broker has not paid them on time. When a claim is made with the claimant will have to provide evidence for the cause of the claim and will require including information regarding the state of shipment before it's shipped and after it has received, as well as monetary value of the shipment. This will also provide the bill of landing, original invoice, the rate of the confirmation sheet of the additional documents depending on the individual situation. Documents will assure the valid contract exists between the parties, identify the value of goods. If any information is missing, surety may decline to investigate the claim. How can brokers stay compliant and avoid claims? If there's good cause for the surety bond claim to be made, your best bet is to try to reach a settlement instead. Your claim is made successfully. This ends up being more costly than the settlement. Create financial difficulties to your company as well as hurt your reputation. If you cannot avoid the claim, it is advised that you communicate with the surety and provide them with all information you have to assist in the process of resolving the situation. Share any documentation about the case of which you have on record, including correspondence. This can greatly help the surety in investigating the claim and assessing whether there is good cause for claim. Finally, the best way to avoid claims is by always complying with all freight broker rules, regulations, as well as the conditions of your contract. In conclusion, to become a freight broker, you only need to get licensed and bonded. But to successfully broker, you need to do more than that. Walking the extra mile by training or insurance, or by perfecting your own operations is the key to distinguishing yourself as a reliable professional broker. This guide provides you with all information needed to start brokering business, making a few upfront investment, your time, resources. You will be able to remain consequently compliant with all requirements of the brokers outlined above. You will help to stay focused on doing business instead of having to deal with costly, unneeded legal issues that come up with those who do not make these investments. In a market, the new opportunities are open on a daily basis. If those who are compliant, diligent, that will benefit the most. Alright, this is about the author, Victor Lance, founder and president of Lance Surety Bond Associates. He began his career as an officer in the U.S. Marine Corps, serving 2 combat tours. The president of Lance Surety has now focuses on educating and assisting small businesses throughout the country and with various license and bond requirements. And about Lance Security Bonds, incorporated Lance Security Bonds is Pennsylvania, based on bonding agency working with both new and experienced freight brokers. And they hope you found this ebook useful and an initiative, and they want, if you have any questions process getting a license bond, do not hesitate to contact them or do what's best to help. All right, and this was the Complete Compliance Guide for Freight Brokers by Land Surety Bonds and Associates.